This energetic thread of conscious love and connection in conscious partnership is continuing. So we're just going to keep following that thread. And while the most potent insights and activating affirmations are shared inside of our dedicated members space, the monthly activation, calling in love is our theme of the month. I still feel that it's important to share the map of where the energy is going and what shape it's taking so you can follow along as well. You can also join the monthly activation at any time. Everything has been pre-recorded, so whenever you land in the space, you can receive it and have it support you on your timeline too. So for today's message, there has been so much shown to me in the last 24 hours. What wants to come forward right now is this theme about authenticity and what that looks like on the journey of attracting that soul partner who's really going to be soul aligned and supportive of not only your soul's mission, but also your shared mission together. And expectations, I think, can come in from all different directions, externally as well as internally. The beliefs that we hold, the viewpoints, the even projections that we hold can really alter our sense of connectedness to ourselves, to Source, God, and therefore to each other. And I know you know this, and you're likely living and playing that out right now in some form in your life, and so am I. What's been repeatedly shared to me is that it's okay to be learning along the way, to not have it all figured out, because that's what this adventure of life is for. If you're learning, you're growing spiritually, and that's really what we're here to do at the end of the day. And I think for me, and maybe you resonate with this too, a big piece of that learning has been around embodying authenticity, staying true to ourselves, and also at the same time uncovering deeper layers of our true selves and allowing ourselves to change over time as our understanding of what our true self even is. So I think especially when in the position of calling in love, conscious love, it's so important to get clear and use your experiences as a mirror to reflect back to you who you are and let it refine you and purify your sense of self, who you are, and what you want. I received that message in prayer this morning. God told me, refine and purify who you are and what you want. And so that's a message for anyone watching too, that is just as important in the journey of building co-creative conscious love as it is in any other aspect of life. And to be aware of expectations, the weight of expectations that others may place on us about what they want for us, maybe even who they want us to be with, and our own internal expectations of who we expect to be with, when we expect it to happen, and so on and so forth. I think that can be a lot more damaging to the process and delay things unnecessarily when we try to force our hand and perform for connection. And also in the learning process, when these, old parts or old patterns inevitably get stirred up again, what I was reminded of today was that we can hold it all with compassion, observe and witness what's coming up, and hold it up to the light. Because we can be that further voice of judgment or source of judgment and criticism and like thinking, oh, why is this coming up again? I've done so much work around this. I should be done with this by now. Instead, to maybe just pause and say, okay, I can see that this is really uncomfortable, or I can see this part of me or this pattern that wants some attention and care from me. And sometimes it can be as simple as asking what's needed, asking this part of you what's needed. That's what I did today. Parts work can be really powerful as a tool for bringing love and tenderness to those places where we think we should have outgrown this by now, or we should have embodied this by now, or integrated this. What if that is the voice of the old story? So instead of playing into that, maybe giving it some space to breathe and allow it to be there. So that's one thing that's come forward. Another facet of authenticity is having your genuine preferences. And this applies to all types of connection and even outside of connection, the things that we like or dislike. And yes, the things that we hold judgments about, which we as spiritual people are always working so hard to drop. I was guided to go explore a new part of town, the town that I've just moved to. And I had seen this walking path kind of along the freeway, and it just kept coming to my mind. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go walk it. And as soon as I got there, actually right before I got there, I felt a ton of resistance. I was like, oh, it's right by the freeway. It's in the hottest part of the day. We're in a heat wave right now in Southern California and probably other parts of the US too, but it is hot. And it was fully exposed right by the freeway. All of these things, voices within me were like, oh, I don't know, let's just go to this other place that feels more familiar. We know it's nicer there, it's shaded. But God was telling me, go do something new right now. And so I told myself, okay, we don't really know why we're coming here and why we need to walk this particular path right now. Could be a metaphor. I walked for about 5 minutes on this path, and everything that I had predicted about it was true. It wasn't very pleasant. I see a little sort of sitting area at the back of one of the neighborhoods. So I turned in there and sat down. It was in the shade where I could just like pause for a moment. And there were so many judgments in my mind about this place. And so I was sitting there and being like, okay, God, like, why did you bring me here? And all I heard was, wait. And so I sat there and I was noticing things in the environment, and I see this little bird, typical brown bird, like popping around on the grass in front of me. And then a twig falls from the tree, and I look up and I see a nest. And as this was happening, I started to think about these animals and whether these animals cared about the place that they called home as much as we humans do. As in, do these animals have the same kind of preferences that we do? Like, does this bird know that it's made a home in this neighborhood and that it doesn't live in a national park, for example? Does it know the difference? Does it care? The animals just make a home wherever they are. Yes, they roam and fly and migrate, but wherever there's a tree that is somewhat suitable, there will be a nest. And wherever there are grubs in the grass is where birds will come and feed. Like, even if it's in a place where like humans reside too, and it's maybe not the most aesthetically pleasing place or the most tranquil and peaceful place. I think what I was being shown in that moment was there's two different layers. The fundamental spiritual truth, which I believe, which is that God is omnipresent. And I was reminded in that moment that omnipresent meaning all places, including that neighborhood that I didn't think was particularly special, but that there were still signs of the divine being present. All of the necessities of life for this little bird, and God being life itself, I saw the evidence of God, of divine, right there. And I started to get humbled in that moment because I was like, omnipresence is everywhere all the time, no matter how we humanly perceive it. And another layer on top of that is that it's also okay to have likes and dislikes. It's also okay to have your personal preferences. On top of that, it doesn't mean you now have to go live in every single place just because the divine is there. And the same goes with people. We are evidence of the divine, even though we may not all choose to express it all of the time or maybe not able to. And so when we have, our likes and dislikes, our preferences about people, about dating, let's just keep it to the context of this video. It doesn't take away the goodness of that person when you take a dislike to them. It doesn't take away from the goodness of that place that I was sitting if I also happen to dislike it. My human judgments don't change or take away the goodness that is fundamentally present because it's divine principle. I've been on this train of thought lately about how I'm realizing that I have so many more likes and dislikes, or we'll call them judgments as an umbrella term. I have so many more judgments than I ever thought I did. And I used to be the person who would suppress those and sort of stamp them out because it wasn't spiritual to have judgments or preferences. And that neutrality was the most spiritual state that I could be in. But what's been reflected to me so much this last couple of days is that all the things that are dynamic about us, like our feelings, our thoughts, our opinions, all the way to our outer appearances, things that have a whole spectrum and range of expression. I feel like I'm finally understanding right now that that's a closer representation of the infinite, the space to be all that is, like the full rainbow, rather than just to be like one shade, one tone, one consistent flavor. And I think this message about authenticity is important not only because it gives us permission to be as we are in all the different flavors, and also freedom to choose. Because when you're in a state of not allowing yourself to have preferences, that's when we end up in misaligned situations. Those misaligned situations also are not wrong or bad because the divine is present with you in those situations too. The truth will come to light and you will learn. You will learn in any situation that you're in the lessons that you need to grow. Yeah, authenticity is such a sensitive topic, I feel like, and one that I personally have spent so much time just delving into and exploring, and so many different ways of connecting to that. First of all, I just want to acknowledge all the work that this collective has put in towards grounding into each of your authenticities. Thank you for that. And also, it's because of all that foundation work that you're able to now take that and hold your center while connecting with the other. It's more than okay to hold on to your likes and preferences as you do that. You can maybe see them as an extension of your authentic self. It's not bad or wrong to want certain things or not be available for certain things. You get to choose your experience. When you come from that place of it being a conscious and loving choice for yourself, all the stories that we write about, oh, how the other person's going to feel potentially about us setting that boundary or walking away or whatever the action is, no one's getting abandoned. Because remember, the divine is with everyone, everything, all of the time. Your like or dislike of something is not going to cause God to suddenly abandon this person, and vice versa. Someone else's dislike of you isn't going to suddenly cause the divine to abandon you. Omnipresence remains steady, constant, and eternal. Goodness is eternally present, cannot be changed. That is your fundamental nature, regardless of what someone else thinks of you. Okay, so I don't know who needed to hear that today. Just permission to own what you want and who you are. And there's nothing good or bad about it on a like human judgment kind of level. So this is the energetic thread that's starting to be pulled and followed along this collective journey that we're having inside of the monthly activation. Again, YouTube is where I will continue to share the map of what's happening. And inside the monthly activation is where I will be fully present and responding to comments and shares, in addition to the included activating insights that I've been given to help this collective integrate and process this energy further. And a note on comments. Thank you so much for your sweet and your loving comments. I am blown away by just how the resonance of these messages and these ideas and this collective journey has brought so many souls together here on this platform. And it just like, I'm in awe of all your comments about how seen you feel by these messages and how happy you are to also be finding each other, a group of people who are like you, and a space where you feel like you belong. So that is a really special blessing that I feel very fortunate to be able to help cultivate in this tiny corner of the internet. And speaking of corners, okay, very just random, but I feel someone needs to hear this. So if you've been following my channel, you know that my background is in spiritual and metaphysical healing of the physical. And so I think it was 2 days ago, I saw that there was like some little bubble or like almost cyst-like thing forming on the inner corner of my right eye. I'd never had this before or seen it before, but what I do whenever anything physical comes up is I'll affirm the metaphysical truths and principles that underlie reality. So I'm not going to share the entire process because it's a little more in depth than is probably suitable for YouTube. But let me know in the comments if you're interested in me making mini training or something like that. But to be honest, I have already several trainings that might be helpful for you if you're wanting support in this area. But I'll just say that there's, like, symbolism and pattern recognition is a huge part of metaphysical healing. So, with this inner corner thing, I kept thinking about the word corner, and I realized that there was a thought or a belief pattern kind of running in the background. This thought was saying that there was some corner of my life where God could not reach and God could not touch. Because if I truly believed and knew that God was omnipresent, this would not have happened. There's no place where God does not love you, no place in your thought, no place in your body. And these were the things that I was starting to affirm and remember, and that there is nothing that God doesn't see. And feel free to replace God with the word creator or source or spirit, whatever represents that source of allness for you. But affirming the truth healed this thing. So after this healing practice, I literally forgot about it and I checked on it today and it was gone. So this is just a little side nugget for anybody who needed that today. And also, if you join the monthly activation for Calling in Love, you'll get access to all of my short courses. The Pain Symbolism Masterclass does talk about some of these concepts in more detail. So, link is in the description box below. Thank you so much for being here, for contributing your beautiful comments and your time and your energy and your likes and your shares and subscribing. I'm just so grateful to be connected to you all. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Mwah.